Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets. I'm happy to have the CEOs of Circadian, Karys and Ale. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
We're thrilled.
How are you guys? I know you guys have been traveling recently, and I'm glad that you guys are back in Austin safely. But how's everything been for you guys last couple weeks in your travels?
It was good. Last week was a week full of things to do. We are in the midst of working for our next production, so we can't really spill the details yet, but we were visiting some factories. We also celebrated both of our birthdays.
Yes.
And we celebrated a wedding, so very eventful week.
Yeah, we also ate lots of habanero, so
Definitely. You guys know how I like to start the show. I'd like to know, we'll go ladies first. Karys, I would love you to tell somebody or tell the audience a little bit about you, even if somebody knows you, that they may not know exactly all the details. So give a fun fact about yourself.
Okay. So fun fact. I'm Karys. I'm the CEO of Circadian, and I'm from Puerto Rico. Then fun fact, I would probably say that I didn't like Ale when I first met him. We met in business school, and he was part of the Latin crew that we hung out with, but we didn't. He was a friend. Never really thought that I would date the guy. Now we're married and have a business together. So I would probably say that love came a bit as a surprise, and it was definitely not love at first sight.
Beautiful. I love that. It's usually how it always goes. A lot of my friends, same kind of stories with their significant others, where they kind of had to track them down for a long time, and then finally they got tired of being pursued so long, and they finally gave in, and then their guard was down. So it sounds like that was similar to your situation as well.
Yeah, they say lovers. The best lovers tend to be the best friends, and I would probably say that. So we became friends, and it took a while, and kind of from there it grew.
Yeah, especially with marriages. I mean, my wife is my best friend as well, and we spend so much time together. You want to have fun with that person. It can't just be about the physical attraction or things like that. You really have to enjoy one another, and I really love going on vacations with my wife. I love spending time with my wife. I love doing nothing or sitting around in my new Circadian gear on the couch with my wife. So yeah, definitely. Being best friends really helps in a relationship.
Right.
Ale, tell us about you. Give us a fun fact.
Sure. Well, so as she mentioned, she's the CEO. I'm the COO of Circadian. I'm from Mexico, and we met at our master's program. And to add about what she said about how we met, well, we met through the program. We were friends all the time. And by the end is when I realized, oh, come on, actually, I really like her from the beginning, but she had a boyfriend. There was no option for me there, right? So, but at the last minute, like at the very last week in the program, my best friend told me she just broke up. And then I realized, well, maybe this is my chance to actually say something, say what I feel about her. And I made this plan. I went to buy some flowers, and I just knocked on her door one day. And when she opened the door, she made this face like, what are you doing here?
Well, I was not expecting it.
So all the speech, everything that I had prepared just was wiped out of my brain. And I could just say, I admire you. And that was my punchline to her. I couldn't say anything else, but it turned out that I really admire this woman. And as years have gone by, it's been the best experience to be with her and just learn from her every day. So that was true, even though that wasn't what I really wanted to say that day.
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful line. For somebody to admire somebody else, that really says a lot about that person. And she still has a huge smile on her face today. So you obviously did something right.
Yeah.
How I met my wife, we were in a group. My best friend actually knew her. We actually went to the same high school, but we didn't know each other in high school. I'm 4 years older than her, so we met when she had just moved back from New York. But the line that I used, I knew she was a competitive person, and she was exactly the type of person that I wanted to be with. But I told her, I said, you are awesome. You're terrific. You're fantastic. You're beautiful. It's just too bad that you're not my type. I told her this.
Oh,
but And I said, but we can probably be really good friends. And this is a true story, and she'll tell you this. But she ended up going home to tell her mom. She's like, yeah, I met this really nice guy, but he said something weird to me. He's like, I'm not his type. And she's like, well, her mom said, you don't need to worry about this guy. And anyway, her friend was into my friend at the time, my roommate, and then we invited them over for a game night. And so we had a great game night. And from that game night, I said, hey, would you mind putting your phone number in my phone? She's like, I thought I was not your type. And I said, well, maybe you can change my mind and I would love to take you out. So
But was that on purpose, the type, like you're not my type thing, or?
It was on purpose, because I knew she was a competitive person just like me. So if you try to challenge me, I'm going to show you that. And my undergrad is in psychology, so I kind of know like it's called like a positive neg. So you give somebody something positive, like really positive, but you also kind of neg them just a little bit. So that's kind of what I do, and I use that in coaching. Like it's called the sandwich approach, where you say something positively first before you give any of the negatives, and then you end it with another positive. So it's a sandwich approach. You have two positive comments with one small negative, maybe an improvement, and then you kind of go from there. But it ended up working. We've been together now for 11 years. Our 8-year wedding anniversary is coming up this in 2 weeks, actually. So.
Congrats.
Exciting.
That's
Congratulations.
Awesome. So you guys went to the same master's program. How did you guys end up? So maybe kind of give a 2-minute origin story each on how you guys ended up in the States in this master's program, because it seems that one person from Puerto Rico and one person from Mexico, and they end up somehow in the same program. Just a lot of things had to go right for you guys to end up to where you're at right now. So tell us a little bit of background story.
Well, I first moved to the States when I went to undergrad. I went to the University of Chicago, where I did econ and political science. And then I worked in financial services. I worked at Goldman Sachs, and then I moved back home to Puerto Rico, working at the biggest bank there. And it was there that my boss at the time mentioned this program. It's called the Consortium, but they give scholarships to Latin and Hispanic and Black students in pursuing their business school education. So at the time, they had 27 schools that you could apply to. I ended up applying to 2. My first choice was Yale, and thankfully I got a full scholarship to go to business school there.
Wow.
And that's how I met Ale. And then shortly after business school, we moved to Chicago, where I had a strategy consulting job at Boston Consulting Group. Then we moved to Miami, where I worked at Carnival Corporation and their strategy team. And then we started Circadian.
Wow.
Do you want to tell a little bit about your story?
Yeah, my story is less interesting, I guess. But one thing I want to say, it is true that the people around you, in this case, your family, when you're young, really influence your decisions. And when I was young, one of the people that I was a fan of was my uncle. And he always told me that if you wanted to succeed, if you wanted to have a better life, you should obviously pursue professional education, but you should also try to go to the US. So for some reason, I always had this thing in my mind that at some point I was going to find a way to come and work in the United States, because it's a very competitive and interesting place to grow professionally and personally. So long story short, I'm an economist. I studied in Monterrey, Mexico. And when I graduated, my father offered me a job in his manufacturing company in Guatemala. I went there. It was amazing. I have amazing friends there, but the job itself was pretty hard. It was kind of a hell for me. Yeah. Working with family is really tough. Sure. So after 4 years there, I had to find a way to go out, and the best way was to pursue master's education. And I actually got into a school called IE Business School in Spain, which actually focuses more on entrepreneurship, and it's a very international program. There, I met one of my best friends nowadays, and we both applied to Yale SOM, and we got accepted. So that's kind of how I jumped from country to country and ended up in the United
But
States.
it was a different program, part of the
Right.
business school, but not an MBA. It was like a second year MBA, basically.
Right. So the Yale program, the MBA program is 2 years, and I basically came to the second year after doing my MBA in a business school. I did the Masters in Advanced Management program. It's for advanced people only, actually. So that's how I ended up there, and I loved it because we had the opportunity to go to any school in Yale. Imagine going to the law school, having the opportunity to learn from very bright people. I went to the astronomy department, and so I basically had the chance to explore things that I really loved and had an amazing time.
Wow, beautiful story for both of you. Tell me what it was like attending such a prestigious university, obviously world-renowned school, Yale, whether it be the School of Business, which I believe both of you just said you just attended. Tell me about your experience there.
I thought it was pretty, I guess grad school is pretty different from undergrad. Where in undergrad, I think I was so concerned as my grades and like, being part of like every and every club, kind of like discovering what I wanted, versus I felt business school, it was a lot more, I guess, I don't want to say strategic or tactical, but you were there for a reason, or at least I was. I knew I wanted to change jobs.
Right.
I knew I wanted to move from Puerto Rico to the US. And that was kind of my main goal. But in business school, at least at Yale, there's no grades.
Yeah.
So it made it a lot funner to take classes. You were able, it gives you the opportunity to explore, like Alice said, things that you might not necessarily be great at,
Right.
but you get to learn about it. And I think the other great thing about business, well, two other great things. One, you get to travel a ton.
Yeah.
So both Ale and I went on different trips, but I visited India, South Africa, Mexico. I don't even, there were like a ton of places that we got to explore with our friends.
Yeah.
And the third thing would be that you meet people from so many different parts of the world. It's a very international school, I guess, and just the people that you meet with their stories and their backgrounds, you get to learn a lot about them. I would even dare to say maybe a lot more about their experiences than even in the classroom per se.
For sure.
So it's a wonderful experience, but my advice to people that are thinking about business school is that it's a lot of money to 2 years without working. So the opportunity cost of losing those 2 years of work, you have to go there with a purpose and kind of know what you want to get out of it, because it's very easy to get lost into, well, I want to try so many things and I want to do many things, and then you end up maybe a little lost because 2 years goes by very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make, because one of the biggest things for me, anybody that has like entrepreneurial spirit just like you, there's so many things that you might want to do, and you really have to really focus in and hone in on 1, 2, maybe 3 things at the very most, in my opinion, that you can really hone in on and really go for those things, because you're not going to be able to do 10, 15, even more things. But that's a really good point that you make, and really have a purpose, and understanding that your purpose could actually change too. You guys both didn't go to school to do what you're doing now, but all those experiences, all those people that came into your life, all those people that you met, whether it be mentors or friends in your friend group, have all helped structure this new life that you guys have put together, and we'll dive into all that stuff. But one of the things that you guys have had the privilege of doing is, one, coming to America from other countries, and 2, you've been able to travel to so many other countries with your experiences over the years. And in my opinion, Americans are sheltered to what else is out there in other countries if you really haven't had the opportunity to go out there and visit other countries or cultures. What are some things that you think Americans might take for granted, that because they live in the United States, they may not have any clue what really goes on outside of our country, because we really do live in a bubble, and there's so much poverty in so many of these countries, yes, there's poverty here, but it's not really like other countries. So talk about your personal experiences, whether it be places that you visited or places that you've come from in your own countries.
Oh my God, that's a very deep question.
It's a really good question.
Yeah, I can say so many things about it, but I mean, if I open myself, I grew up with my mom only when I was young. I didn't meet my father until I was 4, and then he came to my life, and he obviously supported me and paid for my education. But I didn't have a lot of money. I just had the basics.
Right.
Um, Growing up in a country like Mexico, you see all the needs that are just not fulfilled, right? The government doesn't provide good education. There's no good transportation systems. There's a lot of crime activity, etc. So if you don't have that protection, or if you're not in an economic position where you can really grow in a safe place, you get to experience many crazy things. As an experience, I was in a gunfight at some point in my life.
He wasn't part of the gun. They were.
Right. I was just going out with some friends from my school, and I was in the middle of a gunfight between the narcos, which is true, and the military. So what I'd say Americans take for granted, it's security in general. And what I have even from my friends from the master's program that were American is that when things go slightly wrong, they freak out. And so one advantage that coming from a country with a lot of trouble brings to you is that actually things that I consider small things are actually small, versus people that experience the same things that are small will experience them as very big problems.
Right.
So I do think Americans need to go overseas, and because it's eye-opening just to be grateful of all the good things that America brings to the table, to your life in general. So yeah, I mean, not having to worry about being hungry or safety or somebody going crazy, shooting. Well, that happens sometimes, but in general, it's a safer place, and that's something that everybody takes for granted.
Really amazing comments, and the one thing that really stuck with me is the worst thing that's ever happened to you is only the worst thing that's ever happened. Like, so if you haven't been introduced to that, you have no clue or any type of recollection that this is going on out there until you actually see it. And like you mentioned, that's why I think it's very important for people to travel and see other places, other walks of life, because you're going to see that they're vastly different in other countries. And the luxuries that you have here in the United States is exactly that, a true luxury.
Right.
And yeah, you couldn't have painted a better illustration. And another thing is that's the reason why I really like people that have gone through things, because their ability to cope with everyday situations, as you just mentioned, is much easier for them to do that because they've seen so many things that could have gone wrong. And I grew up in a great neighborhood, but we weren't rich, just like you and your parents. My mom raised me as well, and she tried to tell me a lot of these things, and then sometimes I would see some of these things just based on the circumstance. But I'm so blessed that I was able to overcome. I'm blessed to have the lifestyle that we had. Like, I don't have any regrets on the way I was brought up, and I know you obviously don't either. It makes you who you are, and I just really appreciate that story. Karys, do you have any input on this topic?
Yeah, I think I haven't been through a lot of the things that Ale can definitely write a novel. He's been through so much, but I would say two things. One, I think it's a lot easier to do business in the United States. For some reason, there's a level of people being professional, responsible for people in general, right? We're generalizing because there's obviously situations where this isn't the case. But if someone says something, I'm going to give you a quote, or, expect an email by this date. It generally tends to happen. Now working with factories, our factory for Circadian is in Guatemala. We're working with a Canadian factory as well. It's just very difficult to get people to, I guess, commit or to really do what they say that they're gonna do. And to me, that is just mind blowing. Like that wouldn't happen in the places that I used to work. Right. So that level of I don't even know what to call it. I don't know, laid back attitude, informality. It just really angers me. And then the second thing is that there's a lot of, I mean, we don't need to get political about this, but there's a lot of talk about police in the country, in the United States, right? And like everything that they've done, good or bad. Right. But we've been in situations in Mexico where the police has stopped us and we've been bribed. We've been, last week, we were on the highway and we were speeding a little bit, and fine, we deserved the ticket, but the police officer was like, had a credit card machine for him to swipe for him. It wasn't for the government, it was for him. So that is, I mean, it's like this blatant lack of, I don't know, respect for the law, and it's just mind-blowing. So it definitely, I guess it is eye-opening. Like when you come to the US, like, yeah, there's a lot of things that are not great, but there's a lot of other things that are, and it just makes us, as Alice said, like a lot, very thankful to be able to live in a country where, I guess like the basic things tend to be upheld, like law and justice in general.
Things work. There's infrastructure. People tend to respect law. Like obviously freedom of speech. It's a place where things just work fluently and nicely.
Right. Our freedoms and civil liberties should not be taken for granted, especially here in the United States. Yeah. That was, I mean, great chat. I mean, it took us, however long it took to get to this point, but really loved the background information on you guys, and really excited. I was getting ready to wear my shirt, Ali. As well. Thank you for sending them over. Circadian is the best loungewear ever. And mine is dirty. That's why I'm not wearing it right now. But I got the same green one that you sent me. So thank you guys for sending the little care package. But why don't you tell everybody about your new company that you guys recently launched over the last year? Just give us a high level overview of Circadian.
Awesome. Well, Circadian is a direct-to-consumer men's premium sleepwear company. I think the idea came about because I was very frustrated with how Ale used to dress for bed, or I guess not dress for bed. He used to wear these ugly shorts and whatever t-shirt he had lying around. And, nighttime is a prelude to intimacy, and things were not happening because I was a little upset with like how he was not dressing for bed. So during COVID, we had a lot more time spending time together. And it wasn't only during nighttime that he was wearing his sleepwear, but it was throughout the day. Yep. And I guess like the pet peeve became a little bit more intense. And one day Ale was like, well, what if we were to do a men's sleepwear brand that would cater to men because it's super comfortable, but would also cater to the significant other in that it looks good, it fits well. And it has a good story behind it. So that was the inception of Circadian, and I think it has it has evolved a little bit. We ended up moving to Tulum, where we did our first collection, and we launched about 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. And as everyone says, launching a business is very difficult and it's slow. So I would say it has been slow, lots of learnings. But so far the feedback we've gotten on the sleepwear has been very positive.
And I wanted to stress that we didn't create Circadian just for men to look good, but looking good for your significant other is something that we can't take for granted, or we can just forget about being men. We care about other things, right? Our top priority in general is being comfortable. But at some point, our significant other really, it's not, she or he might not be reading that you care about them if you don't project that yourself. When you don't look neat, when you don't look at your best, at some point you may be communicating to your significant other that you don't care enough. So that's something we really care about. We want people to show their significant other that I'm here for you in my best shape, in my best looks, so that obviously you feel attracted to me and cool things happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the biggest thing for me, as soon as I put it on too, is like the self-care. It's important to care for yourself, like especially early on in the pandemic when everything was shut down. Like the first 2 weeks for our family was like not putting any light on people who were suffering and people who lost loved ones. But for our family, when we hunkered down, it was like a really great time for our group for that 2 weeks when everything was shut down. and we were just wearing our sweats and things like that. But it came to a point where it was like, okay, we need to get up, we need to move around, we need to go for walks, we need to focus on our self-care. I need to get a haircut, we need to I need to shave, stuff like that. And the self-care and what you put on your body is very essential in my opinion. It's essential care, just like your hygiene is essential care. Whenever you get ready to go to an event, you get dressed up. Why not do the same thing and really take no effort by having this product in your own home every single day, and you're going to be wearing it more often than you wear that, you wear that nice suit or that nice dress out. You might wear that one time, every 3 months, if you only just wear it once maybe, and you can get more use out of something like this rather than spending your money on, one outfit that you're going to wear one time and get a couple photographs on that event and it's over. And so you can feel comfortable, the underwear as well as the top that you guys sent, just amazing feel. I would equate it to the Lululemon of sleepwear. But I do have a question for you guys. You guys are extremely educated, Yale graduates. Why in the world would you want to get in the clothing business? Because most clothing lines all fail, or most clothing lines fail, not all fail. But the ones that do make it, obviously, they end up having a lot of success and brand loyalty for years and years. But for two educated people like yourselves, what made you just want to go all in on this?
I think we like the challenge, but in all seriousness, for me, it wasn't an easy decision. I was pretty set that, or I guess like in my mind, I had a plan and I was going to go back to corporate. I guess a little bit not getting us on track, but I lost my job during COVID, and that kind of reevaluate what we wanted to do. So anyways, I was set on that, I'm not entrepreneurship at all. I was going to be, a corporate girl and just continue to grow. But I feel like COVID had a lot of lessons for us, and it taught us truly what was important. And I think one of it was like flexibility, the ability to work together, to be with who you want to be. And we didn't, I wouldn't say we didn't come into this just because it was an idea that popped one day. I'm pretty analytical and pretty structured, and I brought that into the idea. We did a consumer survey, before we even had a name, and we even had it incorporated the company. And we found that there was a gap in the market. There's a lot. So sleepwear doesn't really come to mind. If you think about sleepwear, not any brand, like I'd say not a specific brand comes to mind.
Right.
So that to us felt like, there's a gap in the market or a big opportunity. A lot of the mass market brands were not really doing sleepwear. They were doing a lot of casual wear and not really, it was a sleepy dormant category.
Right.
And men in general don't really tend to buy sleepwear. It's like they usually sleep with repurposed exercise shorts or a shirt that they no longer wear out because it's too, I guess, like ratty. So I guess like more like from a business perspective, we saw that there was an opportunity,
right,
on the space, on the category perspective. We also noticed that during COVID, the expectation was for more people to wear things that would make them happy. So comfortable, soft, sustainable garments. So that was an opportunity too. And what Ale was mentioning, the opportunity to feel good, look good for yourself and also for your significant other definitely appealed to us. Right. But I would say it was a considerate decision that took us a couple of months, kind of like between should we do it, should we not? And I think to answer your question, like, why is it that we decided to go into the category? I mean, I guess I never really thought about the question.
Well, you guys are creating a new category, in my opinion. This is a new category because some regular lines might put out sleepwear, but it doesn't look great. It's baggy, it's big, things like that. The shirts and the garments that you guys have are fitted, where that's what the style is now, and they're comfortable. Like you can, it's got I don't know if you guys got 4-way stretch or 6-way stretch, whatever it is, but it feels great. It feels really great on your body. So I'm a true big fan of it, and I'm the type of person that if I didn't really care for it, I would definitely tell you. But for all the listeners out there, and we'll put everything in the show notes. But it's a really incredible thing. I am interested though on, like, once you figured out, okay, there is a need for this, there is a niche for this. Where do you go next? Do you start, trying to find the URL? Do you start incorporating business licenses, things like that? Like, what are the first 10 steps that you did to start getting this thing in line? Because I know when we first started our organization, there was so many different things that you do, and like we're still just on the fly trying to figure things out, even to this day. When we send our big mailing email list out today, like, we're changing and we're always adapting. Where we were 12 years ago is completely different than where we're at right now, and so I just want to know where you guys started.
So for that, I don't think we have a list of things that we did. I'd like to stress out that as the business progresses is when you start realizing that you have to do certain things. But of course, you need to have you need to know the basics of how business works. And in our case, this wasn't our first business rodeo. I guess from my side, I used to work for a family business. And even though it was tough for me, it gave me a huge benefit of really being exposed to every single part of the organization, whether it was finance, legal, sales, operations. So I knew a little bit of everything. And Karys, actually being my partner and business partner, she complemented my skills by being so professional and having worked in amazing projects with her consulting companies. So on my side, I started with the legal stuff. Yes, creating a corporation. We analyzed where it was best, where there would be some certain tax benefits. And we also made a strategic plan to structure the company in such a way that it was interesting for the investors. And obviously for us to operate properly. So after legal, you created a business plan. She developed.
Before you go on to talk about the business plan, I want to talk about what type of corporation did you guys decide to set up? Because our lawyer kind of walked us through. We do have a nonprofit, which we did start 12 years ago, but our gym is LLC. But there was different levels. You can go S corp, you can go C corp, things like that, where the taxes are going to be, more beneficial here, but less beneficial here. So what did you guys decide to do, just for those people? Because I'm really interested in, the business side of things, just like you guys are.
Right. So as I mentioned, it's not our first rodeo. We also have an Amazon business that we started 4 years ago. And this is a funny story because I gave Karys the deeds of the company as a gift. But I didn't really do a lot of research about it, and I just went through what was easier for me, which was creating an LLC. We have realized that having an LLC, as we have progressed, has impacted the way we do our tax returns, because basically in an LLC, all the income that generates through the year passes through your personal income tax.
Right.
Guess what? By the time we were working in our consulting firms, we were making, I would say, good money. So that didn't impact us. That impacted us in a negative way. We had to pay basically more taxes. And so this time we really took a deep dive into how to structure our business better. And we decided to go with a C Corp, simply because one is the widely accepted structure for investors. And and second, simply because the tax rates that you go through as you grow are more beneficial, and you will only pay as a stakeholder. You will only pay taxes on your dividends once you actually pay dividends. So it kind of helps the company as it gets earnings to reinvest them without necessarily paying more taxes. So it's beneficial.
Right. And I believe you can get paid through payroll as well instead of the LLC. You have to have the disbursements. You get paid out of the disbursements, but like you said, you're taxed on everything that comes, all the earnings. You don't get taxed on the losses. But yeah, it's interesting, to see why people do certain things. And if I do another company, I might do a S or a C corp because you have those things in play. But it's very interesting. So I'm glad you guys shared that with me.
Yeah, no, I was not part of that. I'm like,
Okay.
legal is not my area, but I would say that even before we started with the legal, we started thinking about the brand, like what exactly we wanted, like who we wanted to be, with like kind of what the brand essence. We didn't have a name at the time, but we did give a lot of thought about branding. Like who is it? Like what are our values? What is it that we want to sell? What do we want people to notice about us when they go on the webpage or on Instagram? So I would say we probably started with that. And then we quickly started building out, I guess, like a business plan or a timeline of what we wanted to happen over the coming months.
Well, she did it.
I did, but with your help. And then I would say once we had a little bit more clarity about the business idea, then is when we started doing the legal stuff. And finally, the name came kind of in the middle of us doing the legal process.
Right.
But yeah, I would say it was a pretty fluid thing. And this is really rare coming from me, very structured, very planner, but because I wasn't 100% sold on like, yes, we're going to do this. Like, should I look for a job? Should we both do this together? I think I was, it was a weird time where it allowed me to, I guess, flex a little bit and not have every single thing planned. And it turned out being a lot better.
I think, Chris, as you can see, you asking us these questions, we realize that this thing is like a snowball. It's not necessarily like starting with one thing and then moving to the other. It's just as you go through things, you realize that you need to complete other tasks just to make the business, create the business and start.
Right. No, it's well said. It's like that today too. I mean, it's going to be like that, as you guys continue to grow and get bigger. And I'm excited to see how that journey pans out, because it's really like a wave. I was listening to another podcast, and there's no two waves that are the same. If you were looking at the ocean, every wave is going to be different. And I think they were talking about how a surfer, like, they'll get on this wave and they'll be riding this wave for a little while. Then all of a sudden that wave is gone. Then they have to find another one, and then they have to find another one. You can be out there forever, and the waves continue to come. You ride the waves when they get there. When they're not there, you prepare yourself for the next one, so you're ready to go as soon as that next one comes. And I've really tried to live my entire life like that. Like, hey, if there's no wave right now, I'm going to prepare myself just for the next wave to come. And I'm always going to try to better myself, better my situation, better my family's position in whatever it is. And, I think that's what you have to always do. You have to be able to pivot quickly. You have to be able to adapt quickly. And you're like you said, you guys are probably going to change, a number of different times throughout this whole process.
Right. It reminds me that we talked about what's good in America, and we spoke about security. So I actually think that sometimes that concept of security that we all have could be really deterring your potential, simply because you get accustomed to process, right? Instead of really being accustomed to tackling problems and adapting to what's coming, it's always uncertain. I think security, we create it. But in the big scheme of things, it's really an illusion. And I think as human beings and professionals, we need to be prepared to everything that comes, and having that state of mind to understand that things will definitely change. It's very important.
Right. Talk about how you guys have been able to start marketing for it. Like you said, you just officially launched a couple months ago, but tell me about the marketing strategy. You two, of all people, probably have a great strategy, but so this is actually a selfish question too. I want to know how you guys are doing it and how you guys are really getting it out there.
So I think here's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned so far, and it's that it's very important to, I guess, so I'm very much of the school that it's very important for you to learn this stuff before you necessarily hire it out. and ask a freelancer to do your marketing, etc. But I feel there's a limit to how much you can know if there's a time pressure or time constraint.
Right.
So if you have all the time in the world, then okay, you can learn and do it yourself. If you don't, then you should probably hire it out. And I think we did that a little bit too late. I would say that was probably one of our biggest mistakes, and that we thought we could handle it. I've read a ton of marketing books, and I had this strategy of how it should be. But then when it came time to execute on it, I feel that's where I failed, or that we failed. It didn't really come out. It's a lot harder than it looks. So we ended up hiring a new marketing firm that is starting actually this week. Mm-hmm. We still have a very similar strategy in that, we have, for any marketing, you have to have a clear messaging. What is it that you're trying to tell your audience? You also need to have or test your messaging with different audiences. So kind of know like who your potential customer might be and if this is appealing. You need to have your assets. What is it? Is it going to be a video? Is it going to be a picture? So all of that really does go into the strategy. Right. But I would say that the hardest part is probably the execution. There's so many technicalities and so many things that are, I don't know, like tech specific and like even platform specific. That in our case, it was a lot better to hire someone that knew about, YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook rather than us doing it ourselves.
But I'd also want to say that the most important lesson that we learn along these months is that if you have a marketing strategy, you need to be able to, first of all, you need to be open, have an open mind, because who you think your customer is, it may not be at all. And we're continuing to discover who our customer is. Now I know you are one, but it's really hard to get your brand out there. And the second very important thing is that from day one, you should be able to measure the performance, because putting money into marketing is really expensive. It's money. And if it doesn't return at some point, then you're done.
Or if you can't learn from it, then it's also wasted.
Right. Yeah, and marketing is very hard to quantify. Like you said, if you can't really measure it, if you can't measure how many touch points it takes for you to actually get the end user to the client to actually buy or purchase, it's going to be very difficult for you to continue to shell out money if you can't really answer some of those questions. Or if there's an investor, they want to know those certain analytics, and it's very important to be able to track those. And I don't do any of our company's marketing or even my own personal marketing really. I hire it out too. Yeah. But understanding that organic reach on Instagram, just on regular posts or stories, is no longer. The only organic reach that you can have is on Reels or TikTok, or there's no organic reach on Twitter anymore. So to go viral on these platforms is going to be really difficult for you to do. There is still organic reach on B2B and B2C on LinkedIn. But that's a whole different platform. So the stuff that you might put on Instagram and Twitter, you definitely don't want to put on LinkedIn, and it has to be driven towards that group. And that's stuff that I've learned over this whole time period as well. And just understanding, like, just because you put a hashtag now doesn't mean that people are going to, hashtag sleepwear or whatever hashtag you guys might use is not going to pop up on Instagram anymore. It just really isn't. And I found out there's ways to like cheat your followers and stuff like that. And I was like, I never wanted to do that. Like if I have X amount of followers, I'm not going to pay so I can look at 50,000 more followers or 100,000 followers, whatever it is. Like if this pops off, it's because of the real people that want to listen to the content or the stuff that we might put out, or the companies that that might be interested in whatever it is that we might be offering. I never wanted to sell out, and thankfully I never have. But talk about some of those type of tactics? Because I'm sure that people email you guys all the time now saying, "Hey, we can offer you this, we can offer you this, or 50,000 more followers, blah blah blah." So tell me about that, because I've definitely experienced it, and it takes a lot of like resolve to not go that route, because it's so easy to say, "Okay, yeah, we could do that," and then it's just fake, fake potential clients that won't ever buy.
Yeah. Before she explains the strategy, I'd like to say that we are lucky because she does everything so well. She investigates. She goes through the due diligence of things. So I don't think we had to respond to those offers,
Yeah.
simply because she's really found very professional partners that we can actually work with.
Yeah, no,
So no need.
I would probably say that it goes back to like the values of the brand and of the company that you're trying to build. And part of our values was from the beginning was trying to be as transparent as
Being
possible,
authentic.
trying to be authentic, because that's who we think our customer is at the end of the day. So we wanted to represent him or her or the significant other in as much as possible, also in our business practices. So we don't pay for followers. We don't have a lot of followers yet, but it's growing, and a lot of things just take time. And I think it's a very cliche thing to say, but it's true. It's like good things take time, and you're building it slowly, and it requires also commitment and discipline, and it's an everyday thing. So, I've read, a ton of best practice articles, which I'm sure you have as well, Chris, and they all say the same thing. Like, consistency is key. Post every day, learn from kind of what performs best and do more of that. In whichever way possible, try to find good partners, be it a PR agency or be it a marketing agency or someone that can support the skills that you're not that great at or you don't know enough about. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, the product should speak for itself.
Right.
We just need to get it in more people's hands, and we just need more people like you to be able to touch it and feel it and experience it, and that should tell the story. But until then, all that we can do is really be as authentic and as clear as possible with our messaging, and just try to be consistent.
Right. I think there's no good at trying to trick or lie to your customer. It will come back to you. Working in your own business, people may think that when you work for your own business, you don't have a boss, but I always tell Karys that in our case, well, maybe she's the boss,
No.
but
It's the customer.
The real boss is the customer, right? It's the market. So if you try to trick the market, it will come back at you for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me how it is working together, like working with your significant other. What are some of the difficulties involved with that?
We are so different, Chris, like extremely different. I feel that Ale is the creative. Oh, are you there? We can't. Chris? Did we lose you?
He'll be back.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I just think we're so different. Ale tends to be a lot more spontaneous and creative. I tend to be a lot more structured and analytical, and that definitely, I guess, there's a pro and a con to everything.
Every interaction.
But I think what has really helped us, and I can start, and you can tell them about your experience, but has been establishing roles from the beginning. It's very easy when you're working with someone that you have a lot of trust and that you see on a personal level, for things for you to be able to stick your, kind of like your spoon in their plate, and for you to say something in a not like very thoughtful way. So from the beginning, this was, I would say, a best practice that we set out our roles and what our responsibilities were going to be, right? So he's in charge of legal, I'm in charge of marketing. He's in charge of everything logistics and shipping and dealing with all of our vendors. And I'm in charge of product development and the next collection. And it doesn't mean that he can't have an opinion and he can't share his thoughts, which he definitely does. But it means that at the end of the day, I have the ultimate decision, and I take his counsel and his advice, but I have the ultimate decision on my topics, and he has the ultimate decision on his topics. So for any couple that are working together, I would say roles and respecting those roles is key. And then just trusting that the other person wants the company to be successful, wants you to be successful, and wants it to grow.
Yeah, and in my case, I think one thing that I didn't like so much about corporate America is that you have to tune up your emotions. You have to hold your emotions on the inside, right? Because people have an expectation of you, or they see you a certain way. And well, I guess that's really good for professional purposes. Obviously, I wouldn't go to a client and start crying just because I had a bad time yesterday. So you need to manage yourself. But when you are working in your house with your spouse, it is way harder to keep those emotions, whether they're good or bad, inside you. And so they really create a struggle on how you interact professionally. It's really hard if we had an argument about our personal life or how we should raise our dog, which is right here, and then not bringing it to the table when we have to make a decision whether we should spend a lot of money on marketing or not. I usually don't like to spend a lot of money on things, and she likes to invest in things that are valuable, that will provide value to the company. But think about it: we have an issue of, I don't know, spending a X amount of thousands of dollars in something. Plus, we also had an argument in the morning because whatever. Plus, we have the pressure of paying our mortgage. Plus, this and that. Then it could create a bomb. And I think that just being able to have that wall and obviously respect the person as if it was a stranger has helped a lot.
So we sometimes say, like, when it's getting very,
heated up,
it's getting there. We're like, would you talk to your ex-boss?
Yeah.
Like, just imagine me being your ex-boss. You wouldn't talk to your ex-colleague.
Right.
And that kind of makes us, oh, okay, let me dial it down, or let me talk about it later. But yeah, I feel like boundaries has been key.
And also time boundaries, because as everybody knows, you are working all day, and then because we work together, it's very easy to go downstairs and create, make dinner and keep on talking about business. So it is very easy to let that part of the relationship fall apart, and that's obviously not good at all. In the end, we are husband and wife first, and we're also business partners.
Yeah. Beautiful. At what point do you guys start bringing in employees, or have you guys already done that?
So I wouldn't call them employees yet. I would say freelancers. But we have started. I think this goes back to things that either are too time consuming for you to do as the founder, or things that you don't know that might be too technical. So for instance, even though we did most of the website, they were like technicalities on it. Like, we wanted to make it faster, or things about the code that none of us really had the background to be able to do. And it would have taken a lot longer for us to do rather than us paying someone else to do. Same thing, we're not native English speakers. So for all of the copywriting, I wanted someone that was an English speaker so that they would proofread what we were writing. I think my rule of thumb is, if it's something that is too time consuming or that you don't have the skill set, I would probably say hire it out. That actually has been one of the hardest things to do.
Oh, yeah.
Just because from one interview, it's so difficult to gauge whether, this person shares the same commitments, similar values, is as responsible, cares about it. There's been some trial and error. But yeah, I feel like, if someone else could tell me where can I find great people, that platform would be super successful, because hiring is so difficult.
And for sure, there are so many professional and smart people out there. It's just that
it's hard to find them.
We are not at that stage yet. But not to say, I want to say that part of the Circadian's mission is really to support in the near future people that have that ambition to take it to the next level, that share the company's mission, the company's values. And you said something before, that we are blessed because of all the nice things that happen to us, and I do feel that way. From where I started my life to where I am now, I definitely didn't get here by myself.
Yeah.
So if we at some point can become those people that can help other people actually improve their reality in general by work, by learning, by sharing our experiences with them, that would be a very fulfilling purpose.
Yeah. Last couple of things. Are you guys have you guys had any investors so far? Are you guys looking for investments? Where are you at with that?
So before we launched, we had I guess like our seed round of friends and family, and this was also a great learning because asking people for money to me at the time, it felt like very taboo. Like, oh my God, what am I asking?
Right.
This is terrible. Like, what are they gonna think about me? But then, as you know, I feel like as time went by and as you practice, we got a lot better. And I think in my mind, I began reframing it as, rather than me asking them for money, it's an opportunity for them to join us in something that we believe is going to grow, and that we are also, we put a stake of our money and of our time in it as well. So we definitely believe in it. So we did. I feel it took reframing, and it took some, I guess, like changing my mindset and my perspective to be able to feel better about it. But it was definitely something that made me very uncomfortable at first.
Right.
With that said, I feel a lot of the company, in order to grow, is going to need investments. It's a very capital intensive business, just because of marketing, because of materials, because of people. Right. So I wouldn't say that we are against new investors, but right now, from the friends and family round, we can subsist for a couple more months. So we feel good about that, and that was definitely a very big achievement. Knowing, or I guess not knowing, but like feeling the love and the support from the people that we love, that they didn't owe us anything. They didn't really have to participate, and just the fact that they did, it meant the world to us. And it's also a big responsibility.
Yeah, and it shows that they believe in you, and that's, in anything, like we still all have insecurities, so even if you have a successful business, you're still insecure about certain things. And so when somebody puts their money up front, like, which is extremely valuable, especially in this day and age, it just shows you that they have so much belief in you, and that just gives you so much more confidence to continue. Exactly. And like you guys mentioned, figuring out the cost of goods sold, as well as like how many SKUs, what sizes do we need to order of, and then like if we run out, how quick can we get production, because those are sales you're missing out on, is probably something that you guys are going through right now. So I'm just excited to see how you guys continue your journey. This has been an awesome conversation on so many different things, but we did get to the main point, which is Circadian, and I'm so excited that we did meet. But the story along this whole journey that you guys are going on is really what's going to sell the product, and you guys really are the product. If you guys didn't have great personalities, if you guys didn't have great stories, it would be difficult for you to sell something like this. But you guys make it very easy, and the product does speak for itself. So if there's anything that you guys would like to add, this is the selling moment of the show. So go ahead and plug anything you have, whether it be your website, social media, or where they can get it, all of that.
Awesome. No, well, thank you so much, Chris, for the opportunity. It has been our pleasure, and we're super excited. So I guess you can find us on our website, so www.circadian.co.
Not co.
And Sir, like SIRCADIAN.
Good.
And we are also on Instagram, Circadian Co. And we also have a code for the audience. So we have a 10% discount code. It's Beyond the Bucket 10. So it's a 10% discount on any and all products in our website. And
we will put that all in the show notes, along with the website and Instagram handles and all of that. So really appreciate you guys for joining the program. You guys are a terrific couple with great energy and enthusiasm for what you're doing. Extremely educated. I can continue to go on, but I don't want you guys to continue to blush. No, thank you so much for joining the program. It was really my pleasure.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Chris. Take care.